Bavaria and Austria, an enchanted land filled with medieval castles, the resting place of the Holy Roman Empire, where the land itself seems to sing with the voices of Wagnerian opera and the finest classical composers, and also castles. Yes, it's time for another adventure with Trova Trip. I'm making travel plans and you can book a trip to come with me. My first experience with Trova Trip in Rome was so awesome, I pretty much called them up as soon as it was over and asked how many can I schedule at one time. And then our trip to Japan sold out, so here we are. Ready to complete the Axis World Tour, I guess. Let me give you our itinerary and maybe I'll see you there, and if not, you get to learn something. The day is September 2025. You've just arrived in Bavaria and met your fellow travelers. They are history nerds, and the best part about that is someone will appreciate your references no matter how dated. We'll have a day in Munich to get to know each other as we explore the city. I'll get to meet all of you. We'll share stories, some about ourselves, some just random anecdotes of stuff people did 200 years ago. The next item on the agenda is castles. Neuschwanstein, crown jewel of Bavaria. She's a beauty, yes. She inspired the Disney castle, also true, but that's not why we're here. We're here because she was built by Ludwig II. This king in the 1800s had the biggest celebrity crush in modern history. He loved opera composer Richard Wagner so much that he flat out admitted to his wife that he was always going to love Wagner more than her. And when spending the rest of his life with his favorite musician didn't work out, he built the man a shrine. This castle is that shrine. Ludwig spent the rest of his life building this thing, as well as all of his money. All of it. He bankrupted himself and tried to convince his ministers to commit treason against Germany to get more money so he could finish it, so he could impress Wagner. When I say he spared no expense, I mean it. I am obsessed with this man who spent his whole life living like a tween girl. I made a whole video about him, and now we can see it in person. And the castle right next door that we also get to go to is the one that Ludwig grew up in. Who knew architecture could tell you so much about the unhinged psyche? Our next day will involve castles! Out of the age of myth and into the age of medieval ages. There's one thing I learn anytime I study something in the medieval period, and it's that genuine medieval history and culture are so underappreciated, and Hohensalzburg Fortress in Austria just wraps you up in it completely. It's one of the largest medieval castles in all of Europe. It's so big because it's nearly 1,000 years old, and every couple hundred years someone came along, got nervous about such and such a war, and so they built more castle, and then they built more castle, and it did its job so well that no army ever even tried to attack it. Well, some peasants tried in 1525, but they failed. So all of that castle is just sitting there in excellent condition. So then, the city of Salzburg, also the home to this little ditty. They shot The Sound of Music here, and there's all these historical sites that they filmed at. The local abbey, this adorable little village, 2 different palaces, which are kind of like castles. Why does a city of 150,000 people have a castle and 2 palaces? Make that 3 palaces because the Mirabelle Gardens are also in a palace. Austria, how many palaces did you build? Anyway, Salzburg is all connected with one big Sound of Music tour that's got a bunch of really cool stuff in it, so we're going. And then finally we get to Vienna. Oh, look at this! Look at this! The whole city is caked in baroque and rococo. I'm getting flashbacks to some of the first videos I ever made. Composer Joseph Haydn, least interesting man in the world, he held a steady job for 30 years. He created music that rocked the world without living in misery. He was trained here. Mozart was big in Vienna. There's Schönbrunn Palace, again, kind of like a castle if you take your contacts out. This is where one of Austria's most famous rulers, Maria Theresa, had her whole beef with Frederick the Great of Prussia. You can actually go see Maria Theresa herself. She's interred in the Emperor's Crypt with a bunch of other Holy Roman Emperors. And the crown jewels. Different building, but really close by. This awkward, boxy-looking crown is old as hell. I remember cutting out this thing in Photoshop and reusing it all the time because there's 800 years of Holy Roman emperors who wore this thing. The most famous picture of Charlemagne has him wearing it. Not historically accurate, but still, when you think Charlemagne, it's in the picture. This thing is right there. We'll also be passing by the building where the Congress of Vienna was signed, that little treaty they did after Napoleon that led to one of the longest periods of relative peace in Europe, a work of art. We'll be going into the apartments of Emperor Franz Josef, not the last Habsburg monarch of Austria, but like the last big, important one, you know? Again, there's a video on that on my channel. And if we've got time, Vienna's famous as the place where a bunch of random historical figures all hung out in like the 1910s, like Freud, Hitler, and Stalin walk into a bar. There's articles about all the cafes they used to frequent. I'm hoping if we have some extra time, we could do a little bar crawl to all the cafes with famous patrons around town. Lenin, Beethoven, Goethe. This cafe is so old, Goethe used to go there. Most influential German writer of all time, started writing before America was even a thing. I'm so excited for this trip. Here's how this thing works. The trip is in September of this year and space is limited. The minimum number of people we can take is 8, but our max this time is only 20. We are 2 for 2 on selling out, so definitely reserve your spot sooner rather than later. Your down payment is refundable up until your spot is confirmed, so after we hit that minimum number of travelers, and the rest is payable in monthly installments. We are also offering an early bird discount of $100 off. You can learn more and sign up using the link in the description. That link will also allow you to sign up for the waitlist should we fill up. We've taken somebody from the waitlist on both trips so far, I think. And you'll be put on my mailing list. That way I can let you know before anyone else when we're planning our next trip. And that's all from me. I love the way our itinerary has shaken out, and I can't wait to see you there.